Welcome back to an a la carte episode of the Arbitrarium. We're kind of doing this one off the cuff, no pre-written remarks for the intro, and
We've had about 5 minutes since the time we decided we were going to do this episode, so...
yeah. This one is going to be about kind of intro to firearms terminology, and why even people who hate guns should know this stuff, so you don't sound like idiots.
Maybe in particular, even.
Yes, in particular.
I feel like if you hate something, you should know the most about it.
Yeah. Kind of like how every smoker knows that smoking is very bad for you. We know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Many people won't let us forget.
Mm-hmm. It has been shoved in our face. In firearms, what is not helping the conversation to actually progress is someone comes up with a you've seen the press conferences. Politician or DA or some elected official shows up holding a scary looking rifle and says something idiotic about it. I can't remember the DA's name, but he held up an AR-15, which was not actually an AR-15. That is a specific weapon, saying, "This is an AR-15 ghost gun."
A ghost gun?
Yes. You could see the serial number on it. It's not a ghost gun.
Oh, okay, so that's a real term.
Yes.
But it's a false statement, okay.
They're also referred to in the pro-gun area, or pro-gun areas of the internet, as spooky boys. And said it can fire a 30 magazine clip in 3 seconds.
It fires magazines?
Yes, not just magazine. It fires a whole clip of magazines, 30
wow.
of them, in 3 seconds.
Wow.
If you were to add up each magazine in an AR-type platform...
That's a bludgeoning weapon.
The standard capacity is 30 rounds.
Yeah.
You're saying you have 30 magazines. Quick math, that's 900 rounds in 3 seconds. That is a rate of fire on par with an A-10 Gatling gun.
Oh, okay.
Actually a bit faster. The thrust would knock you down. So let's get into what these things actually mean. There is a difference, and we'll start with what is a gun. I think that's a good place to start. You agree?
Oh, if we're starting like 101, yes. What is a gun is important.
Okay, a gun is any device that uses typically gunpowder, but any explosive really, to propel a projectile down a barrel.
Yep.
If you don't have a barrel, you don't have a gun. You have a bomb. I think anyone will agree those are not the same thing.
No. So, well, I mean, there's some overlap. If you have like a grenade launcher, you have a bomb gun.
Yeah, that would be a bomb gun, but it's a bomb. It's a gun that launches bombs.
Right.
It still has a barrel.
Yeah.
Now that barrel could be anywhere from half an inch all the way up to, I've seen barrels as long as 34 inches, and there are ones that are longer. So that's a gun. What's a firearm?
Oh, yeah, that was an actual question.
That was an actual question.
What is a firearm?
Yeah, how is a gun different from a firearm?
I would imagine that a firearm has to do with the mechanism of how you get the projectile from, well, the magazine or whatever it is that it's, housed in to the destination. I would imagine that system in particular is what differs a firearm from just a gun.
Yes and no.
Okay.
They are used in modern, in layman's parlance, interchangeably, but there is.
Does it have
to
do with the you use an explosion to project it?
Both do.
Okay, so a gun.
All firearms are guns. Not all guns are firearms.
Okay.
What separates this in most legal definitions across the state is a firearm is something that is manufactured post 1898.
Oh, so it's a weird sort of. Definition.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a weird definition, and everyone feel free to check me on that.
Okay.
I've seen some laws that are, this is a firearm, not a gun.
Yeah, because that seems arbitrary to me. I don't like that.
And you're going to learn throughout the course of this that a lot of terminology is arbitrary.
Okay.
In guns.
Yep, so, don't like that.
Yeah. What is a rifle?
A rifle?
Yes.
See. Okay, I have to think about that because my first response to that in my head was, well, it fires bullets a lot faster than a pistol. It's like, well, not necessarily. Pistols can be automatic.
Mm-hmm. And there are some rifles that shoot slower than
Yeah.
the actual
Single shot
projectile,
or
the actual
semi-auto,
projectile is slower
Yeah.
than what's coming out of a handgun. It depends on the loading.
Does it have to do with the triggering mechanism?
No.
No?
It has to do with barrel.
Oh, is it literally just length of the barrel?
No, not length of the barrel.
I wouldn't think so.
Well,
Because pistols can be rifled.
yes, you're onto it. Rifling.
Okay.
So, in order for a rifle to be a rifle, the bore has to have grooves in it that spin the projectile.
Yeah.
Like a football being thrown well.
Yeah.
That stabilizes it so they're more accurate. For it to also be a rifle, it has to have a stock that goes against your shoulder.
That makes sense.
And for a normal, no strings attached rifle, it has to have a barrel longer than 16 inches, according to federal law.
So all those things have to be true.
Yes.
Okay,
all
that
those
makes
things
sense.
have to
Because
be true
I've
to be a
seen
rifle.
pistols that have stocks that you can attach to them, which is a little weird.
Yeah, those are not stocks; those are braces.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They're
What's the difference
important
between a
legal
stock
distinction.
and a... Oh, it's a legal distinction.
It is a very important legal distinction.
Okay.
If I took my AR-15, well, my Sig Sauer M400,
Yeah.
which is an AR-style rifle, and shortened the barrel to, let's say, 14.5 inches versus the 16 that it's at, 16.1, I have now created what is called an NFA item. National Firearms Act of 1934.
Okay.
I would, in order to have that weapon legally, I have to pay a $200 tax stamp. I can take the same weapon, remove the stock bit, put on a brace, and shorten the barrel, and I'm fine. Because now it's a pistol.
So it's literally just mitigating legal definitions. Okay.
Braces do provide a little less stability than a full stock.
I would
But
imagine
if you
so.
know what you're doing, it's not going to be that big of a deal.
Right.
A handgun is different from a pistol, which is different from a revolver. Which is, yeah.
A handgun and a pistol are different?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I know the difference between a revolver and most other pistols. Although I think a revolver is a type of pistol, but it's not a handgun. Is that right, or do I have that?
No, you have it reversed.
Reversed. Okay, so
In modern parlance, and this was different when semi-automatic handguns were introduced, a handgun is any gun that can be comfortably fired with one hand.
Right?
And that can be, the most modern submachine pistol that has 50-round drum magazine and just pumps them out.
Or Jesus' Derringer.
Which is actually called a hand cannon. It is literally a small black powder cannon like you see in Revolutionary War that you can hold in one hand and you use a hot wire to touch it off. Those exploded in a lot of people's hands.
I can imagine.
Metallurgy just wasn't really up to the snuff back then.
Barrels are important.
They are. If you don't have a barrel, you have a bomb. And sometimes you still have a bomb. So, all pistols are handguns. All revolvers, with few exceptions, are handguns.
A barrel is little more than an explosion pencil.
But a pistol specifically uses semi-automatic operation. Meaning you squeeze the trigger, one bullet comes out, it operates the weapon, reloads the chamber, all on its own. The semi-automatic,
on one trigger squeeze.
On one trigger squeeze.
Okay.
Or one operation of the trigger. This will get important
Which is
later.
how a revolver can still be a pistol, right?
No.
Because when you squeeze the trigger on a revolver... Well, no, that's not true. Not some revolvers are like that, but not all.
A revolver is a repeater. There are double-action revolvers that operate very similarly to semi-automatic pistols, where you can operate the reloading mechanism, but the gun is technically already loaded. You're just moving the rounds around.
Yeah, you're turning the chamber.
You're turning the chambers.
Chambers, yeah.
Yeah. A semi-automatic pistol has one chamber. A revolver has as many as fit in the cylinder.
Yeah, the cylinder, that's what it is.
A Lamette revolver from the Civil War could hold up to 20 rounds in a cylinder and still have room for a 410 shotgun barrel or round in the middle of it.
Okay, yeah, that's impressive.
Yes, it was. It was why, I can't remember the name of the Confederate general. He carried two of them. He was a cavalry officer.
Wasn't Pickett?
No, I don't think it was Pickett.
Okay.
I can't remember his name. I was focused on the gun, not the
Right,
wielding
right.
it.
Most of my knowledge of the Civil War is revolves around, no pun intended,
So
revolves around Gettysburg.
there is a third broad general class of firearm, the shotgun. What do you think the legal definition of that is?
Well, I mean, when I think of the difference between a shotgun and any other gun, it has to do with the fact that it uses shells. I mean, you're firing a cloud, a focused cloud, hopefully, of
Depending on barrel length.
yeah, of
and load.
tiny little, like a whole bunch of little bullets, maybe you could think of it that way.
Yeah.
And it's
Pellets.
sort of, it's pellet, and it sort of scatter shots an area.
What makes a shotgun loaded with a slug different from a rifle?
The narrowness of the cone?
It's loaded with a slug. That's one big round.
Oh, okay. I thought a slug was just like a more narrow.
No, you're thinking about a choke
Oh, okay.
that goes on the end of a shotgun.
Oh, it can't be size of the projectile. I don't know. Is this going to be one of those legal definition bullshit?
Yes.
Okay.
This is one of those legal definitions. It's one of those, you can look at it and know it, but not quite be able to put your finger on it.
Yeah.
A shotgun is specifically designed to operate with a multi-projectile loaded cartridge. There's multiple projectiles in there. If you have one big projectile, it's still using the same cartridge. And it doesn't matter how long that cartridge is, if it's the same diameter and is traditionally either paper or plastic for the shell itself, and then the little brass bit that goes on and holds your primer and your powder. That's a shotgun shell.
Okay.
And shotguns are typically in gauges. What a gauge?
Yeah.
What a gauge means.
It's a diameter issue, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But what does 12 gauge mean? What does 20 gauge mean?
The gauge. See, I know.
And why is
this is what I
410 still a
remember
shotgun?
about gauges, is that the smaller the number, the bigger the size of the thing you're talking about. That's
Yes.
what makes gauges different than.
And a 410 shotgun shell is still a shotgun shell, but not in gauge.
I'm trying to remember exactly what the calculation is for a gauge. Okay, so
12
if the
gauge
number
shotgun.
is if the number gets bigger, or if the number gets smaller, and
The bore gets bigger.
the bore. Oh, it's the bore. Okay, yeah, okay. I was trying to remember why it works the way that it does, but yeah.
Yes. So a 12 gauge shotgun, the bore, the size of that bore, will hold 12 lead balls that size to make 1 pound of lead.
Yeah.
That is your gauge.
Yep.
So a 32 gauge shotgun, and those do exist, can hold 32
A lot more.
balls, but it doesn't
Smaller.
have as much oomph to it.
Yeah.
There were things called pucket guns that were like 2 and 4 gauge. Although at that point they're often called
That's damn near
2
a
and
musket.
4 bore. What is a musket? Because a musket is a gun, not necessarily a
Yeah.
firearm.
Well, a musket is generally black powder charged, as far as I know, and it's not rifled. And it fires one ball out a barrel, and you pray that it hits whatever you're aiming at.
Now, what is a rifled musket? The weapon of the Civil War.
Yeah, I should know this because I just said Gettysburg, and that was one of those battles where it was like, let's see how well this works. It seems to be pretty good. Fuck.
It is a muzzle-loading rifle.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's rifled, but you still have to load it from the end of the barrel.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
And that is muzzle loading versus breech loading. The breech on a gun, and this is pan gun, with few exceptions that we're not going to get into, is the part of the gun that is just behind the chamber, which is attached to the barrel. The chamber is where the round sits before it goes off.
Yeah.
The breech is what plugs the end of the chamber.
Yeah. It's the wall between the chamber and the barrel.
It's what makes a seal so
So the gun doesn't explode in your hand?
or just shoot the shell back at you.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
There are weapons that are actually designed to that don't have a breech at all, don't even have a bolt. And we'll get into what a bolt is later. They're called recoilless rifles. They have an open end up front and an open end up back.
Is there a backblast area? I feel like
Yes.
okay.
Yes,
There would
there's a
have to be,
backblast
right?
area. These are typically anti-armor weapons.
Okay.
And they are rifled. People mistake them for missile launchers or rocket launchers. They're not. A missile or a rocket has continual thrust acting upon the projectile.
Yeah.
A rifle, a gun, it's one big push out of the barrel.
Yeah.
And it's not the explosion that kicks the projectile out of the barrel. It's the expanding gas. Any explosion creates a lot of gas.
Yeah.
A gun focuses the gas to push one thing out.
Right.
Well, or in a shotgun's case.
In a sense, it's all guns are airsoft.
No, they're electrically operated airsoft guns.
Okay, fair enough.
They're just a lot of low explosive gas being pushed on things.
Yeah.
So we've covered handguns, rifles, shotguns. One more point I want to make.
Muskets.
Muskets.
Yeah.
What if you take a modern military rifle, such as an AR-15, and remove the rifling? What is it?
A less accurate rifle.
No, there's no rifling. It can't be a rifle.
Okay. It's a semi-automatic musket.
No, it's not loaded from the front. It still loads from
Fuck,
magazine.
you're right. We may need a new name for this.
No, we have one. It's just a firearm. It falls under the umbrella firearm, which is why a company called Franklin Armory, who I love, made a
this is it. Yeah, okay.
made a weapon called the Reformation, which is an AR-15 style rifle
With no rifling.
with no rifling. So it was not subject to any of California's gun laws, or New York's for that matter.
How accurate is it?
Decent enough, out to 150 meters.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good
I mean,
for an unrifled rifle.
Yeah, I mean, the rounds are still tumbling when they come out, and they're doing
Yeah.
all sorts of weird stuff. You're not going to be making 600-700 meter shots with it.
Right. But the rifle's still, the barrel's still long enough that you're going to be reasonably accurate, more than you would with a musket, I would think.
Barrel length doesn't affect accuracy, per se. Accuracy is the...
See, I figured it would, because I thought that, I would have thought that the longer the barrel, the more, by the time that the round leaves the barrel, it's stabilized a little bit more the longer the barrel is. Although, it could also slow it the fuck down.
Yes, and that's what you run into with 9mm pistol caliber carbines, which is our next category.
It's like it's going to be bouncing around in there, and the longer it's bouncing around in there, the less energy it's going to have when
rifling,
it
it's
leaves.
not bouncing.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We're talking about non-rifling, so if it's even kind of bouncing around in there, it's losing a lot of energy very quickly.
It's not gaining as much is a better way to put it.
Okay.
Because a gun only loses energy after the projectile leaves the barrel.
Okay.
Or if the barrel is too long for the load. For instance, a 9mm handgun. Most of these are between 2 and 5 inch barrels.
Yep.
Kind of hovering right around 7.3, or not 7, 4.73 inch for like a Beretta or a Glock. Your very common 9mm handguns. Pistols in this case.
Our producer is making the rounds.
Yes, he is. That 9mm load maxes out in velocity right around between 10 and 12 inches. Any further barrel will actually slow the round down. That's why in pistol caliber carbines, people like between an 8 and a 12-inch barrel.
Okay. So my love of long barrels may be somewhat counterintuitive.
You like handguns. It's not going to matter that much.
Okay.
Unless you get... Oh, that's another category of handgun. When I was talking about the M400, if I did chop the barrel down and put a brace on it, it's now a handgun. Because the brace is not a stock.
Yeah.
And it can, with the brace, it can now be effectively wielded with one hand. I don't recommend this. It can be done. It's not comfortable, but you're better off just shouldering the damn brace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which we'll get into ATF fuckery.
Is this an a la carte or is this a full episode?
We're not doing too bad on time.
Let's check it out. Yeah, we're right at 20 minutes. A little longer, almost 28.
Carbines.
Okay.
This is a term that has so many meanings, it has basically no meanings.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
I like to define a carbine as a rifle form weapon that uses pistol caliber cartridges. That's how I like to define it.
Mm.
Another in common use is a rifle that has been shortened.
That's what I picture when I think
Yeah.
of a carbine, yeah.
And that's how it was used for a long time. But we've had...
A P90 is a carbine, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Because when I think of when I hear carbine, that's something like that is what I usually picture.
It can be.
Okay.
It can be. But a P90 is a personal defense weapon. That is its classification.
So it's not a pistol or a rifle because it's
No.
somewhere weird in because generally they fire 9mm, right?
No.
I thought it was 9mm.
No, P90s fire 5.7 by 2.8 NATO.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
it only gained the NATO suffix last year.
Okay.
Or was it earlier this year?
I don't know why I thought it.
The round's been
9mm.
around since 1990, but
Okay.
thanks to fuckery from Heckler and Koch, the makers of the MP5 and the MP7, they were fighting NATO's adoption of 5.7, and they finally just gave up.
Maybe we'll do another a la carte episode on the guns of Goldeneye.
Love to.
Clob!
So, there are situations where the carbine is longer than the rifle.
Okay.
I believe it's the Chinese Type 97. No, not 97. It's a Chinese AKM. That the rifle is a few millimeters shorter than the carbine.
Okay.
So there's a lot of gray area in the definitions thereof.
Right. What about legally? What is there a legal definition
No,
for carbine?
there is no legal definition for
That
carbine.
may be a blessing.
Yes and no. So, what do all these things have in common? What makes a modern firearm work? You must have a barrel. You must have a chamber. You must have a trigger. And a way of reloading it. That can be as cumbersome or as sleek as it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a way of loading it, technically, yeah, sure, it's a gun, but it's a single-use distraction device, basically.
It's a fancy slingshot.
Yeah, there will be a way of reloading it unless it's made out of, like, paper mache. Which there are weapons made out of, essentially, paper mache.
I can see the utility of having a weapon that destroys itself shortly after using it.
The AT-4, an 84mm rocket launcher. You can shoot it once. The tube that it's fired out of cannot handle another round. So, any gun that holds more than one round has what's called a magazine.
Yeah.
That magazine could be internal, like a 12-gauge shotgun. That is an internal tube magazine.
Yep.
Or it could be detachable in the form of an AK-47, AR-15.
Yeah.
And that is called a detachable box magazine.
Real quick, maybe it would be, since we're, I guess running somewhat short on time. I think a lot of people get the confusion with this. What is the difference between a magazine and a clip?
A clip holds rounds typically by the back. You can see the round in a clip. Most of it. A clip is just a piece of metal or other substance that is just holding the rounds together.
Yeah, it doesn't have a casing around it.
Right, and
Yeah.
you have two kinds of clips, discarding clips and in-block clips. An in-block clip, you fit the entire clip with the rounds in the rifle, or weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And then as it discharges rounds, when it gets to the last one, that is typically kicked out, that
Yeah.
in-block clip.
Yeah.
A discarding clip is something more along the lines of...
That's where you use it to load the ammunition, and then you toss it before
Yep.
you even fire. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just using my context clues. I assume that's what it is. Yeah.
A good way to think about this is think about a paper clip and a like a news magazine.
Yeah.
You can fit a clip in a magazine. You can't fit a magazine in a clip.
Yeah. Well, I think of clips like naked magazines. That's kind of the way I kind of... it helps me visualize and remember what the difference between the two is.
A magazine also holds the rounds while the gun is in operation.
Yes. Okay. That's a good way to think about that. Because when people are thinking of AK-47s, they're thinking of a magazine, and most guns, when they think of... They're thinking of a magazine and not a clip. But, you've got the sort of box-shaped thing that has all the bullets in it, and it attaches to...
It clicks in.
It clicks in, and it stays there the whole time you're firing, and then when you're out of bullets, you got to switch them out.
Yeah.
But with a clip, you're using like a... And it usually is just like a some kind of strip of metal that maybe has a little other stuff in it.
Some are made of cardboard.
Yeah, and it has bullets in it, but you're using the clip to load the bullets into the gun.
Into the magazine.
Into the magazine.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You will never find a weapon that uses a clip that does not have a magazine.
Okay.
All single-shot weapons do not have magazines. They have no need for a clip.
Yeah, it's not like just dumping bullets into some well in the gun and it figures out how to load it.
Unless you're operating a hopper-fed weapon.
Does it just have like a bag of bullets that it's like...
It has a hopper on top.
Okay.
You have to orient the rounds properly, but you just drop the rounds in and...
Oh, okay.
Like early Gatling guns. Some early Gatling guns had hopper feeds.
Because I'm picturing like a bingo tumbler. Where it's just a basket on top of the gun with a bunch of bullets in it. They're facing every fucking which way. It doesn't matter.
They have to be facing the right way.
Okay.
Then you have a belt feed.
Yeah.
Which is kind of somewhere in between a clip and a mag.
Mm-hmm.
A belt fed is a machine gun. There are semi-automatics that use belt feeds. They're weird, and they're not really even worth mentioning, but just they do exist.
Yeah.
And that is the rounds themselves are clipped to each other.
Okay.
You feed the belt in, you lock it down into the weapon in whatever way that weapon needs to operate. You rack the bolt, and then as the gun fires, it strips the round off the clip. And early ones had non-disintegrating belts.
I feel like...
Now we use disintegrating belts.
Yeah, I feel like belt is one of those few situations where the word itself gives you enough context clues to know what it is. I think most people picture something relatively accurate when they hear the term belt.
Yeah, and
in terms of firearms. It's like, yeah, it looks like a belt of bullets.
Yes, but it's not to be confused with an ammo belt.
Well, that just holds the bullets.
Right,
like
a Wild West.
Yeah.
It's from ammunition belts that we get to term the whole 9 yards.
Really?
Yes.
Did not know that.
The number of rounds that a World War II fighter typically held was in a belt about 9 yards long.
Okay.
So when you give them the whole 9 yards,
actually. Yeah.
you are emptying 9 yards worth of ammunition into one target.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That is a lot.
And
okay.
Typically between 6 and 8 different machine guns, all firing all of their individual 9 yards.
Okay.
Of ammunition.
Well, we're about 28 and a half minutes now, so if we're going to keep this at a la carte length, we do got to wrap it up. What do you want to do?
Yeah. We'll call this part 1.
Okay. That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. Because people are more apt to listen to a la carte because they are shorter, so I'm fine with doing something like that.
Yeah, you impatient degenerates. I can go on about guns all day.
This has been one of the more efficient episodes of the Arbitrarium that we've had. It's just been a constant, good, balanced back and forth, and we didn't lose track of what we were talking about.
I went off a little bit, but it was always on topic.
Yeah.
Next time we'll get into what makes a repeater semi-automatic fully automatic. Bye.